Welcome to the TSA's Thursday Checkdown, the weekly show designed to help you win your leagues. I'm here with my good friend and co-host, Rick Brusuelas. Rick, how you doing tonight?
Doing good. Had a struggle last week with some injuries, so hoping for better things this week, but other than that, doing great.
Hey, Bob-Mageddon's going to hit you harder than any injuries did. But hey, listen, this is the last Bull Rush update for a couple weeks because I'm on the road to Japan after this show. Not right after the show, but before next week. So I did go through last week. I stumbled. Okay, I dropped 4%, which isn't great today. But I still finished in the top 25. I think I was 22nd. And that's out of 140 teams. Now I figured out why. One team won 1.5 million. Now the way I figure they're doing that is they're betting a full 100,000 that we get each week. Now this is notional money; it's not real money, but they're betting 100 and getting great odds, and that's how they get to 1.5. But that's also why most teams are going belly up, and I'm not experiencing that. So I gotta decide if I want to think about that approach, but I'm not going to think about that approach until I get to the money rounds because I want to make sure I get in the money rounds, and then I'll worry about maybe winning more money. And if I do win money, as everyone knows, it's going to a charity. I'm not taking any money for this because I don't gamble because I used to be top secret clearance in the Army and just got into the habit of not gambling. Not against it. If you're into wagering, check out bullrush.com for all your wagering needs. They're good people. They're honest people. And that's what I like about them. But now I think it's time for our Pro versus Joe segment. Now I got to tell you, after 7 weeks, our Joes lead our pros 6-5, and our hosts lead our pros and Joes by a 16-11 tally. We're doing pretty damn good. This week's pro is the prodigal son. Mace Riney, who was my very original co-host when we started this show over 100 episodes ago, is back. Now, Mace he's doing for TSA and for Fantasy Pros. He does player rankings. And he's been around the hobby for a long time. He does have one fault. He's a 49ers fan, but he's a good guy. He really is a good guy. Yeah, we know about you too, Jack. Okay. So, Mace, tell our audience where they can find your work, what you're doing, what you're up to.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Mace Riney, most know me as Cali King 49er17 on Twitter, or Broski Pumps on Reddit. I cover fantasy football, the focus on the IVP side as well as the offensive side. I have a weekly article called Mace's Madness on the TSA. I also do rankings on the TSA and the Fantasy Pros as well. I also I scout for the Shrine Bowl, players that do that as well. I was tuning in last week, though, Greg. I saw that you were dogging my Niners and Christian McCaffrey, so it's nice to see that they got that win in a running fashion.
Oh, no. I love McCaffrey. I do love McCaffrey. He's one of my – I got McCaffrey in a couple leagues this year. I'm loving that so far. But our Joe is Jack Scott. Jack, tell our audience about you. Who are you? Where can your work be found? You said you used to be a pro?
I did, yes. Thank you for having me on, first off. And I am a Chiefs fan. That's not a bandwagon. Want to get that one out of the way. From Kansas City, I grew up with Tyler Thigpen, Brody Croyle, Matt Castle, the whole bang. I had season tickets, so now I can comfortably say it's very fun being a Chiefs fan in my 20s. I previously worked for Walter Picks, which is a sports betting app, and I ran our Chiefs Walter Picks account. I did that for the past 4 years. I'm no longer working with Walter Picks. However, I do still work in sports. I work in sports media for an advertising company in Chicago, where I currently live. I've played fantasy football since I was 12, 13 years old in middle school.
Wait a minute. Time out. How can you not be a Bears fan?
I lived in Missouri until I was 19. I'm from Kansas City.
So you're a transplant to Chicago.
Yes, but now I've been in Chicago for 6 years. I don't think of myself as a transplant. This is like my home now.
Okay, so let me explain this contest. What we think of as sleepers, you might not. We found that out on our Snap Crackle Pop show last week when Rashee Rice was named as a sleeper, and a lot of people took exception with that. Well, the fact is, it was his first game back. He had 0 points. Mahomes spreads the ball around. We didn't know what his usage was going to be. Guess what? George Kittle could have been named as a sleeper too, and he got 0. So, sorry to say this, guys. We have to have standards. Our standards are year-to-date scoring, top 12 quarterbacks and tight ends can be busts, but not sleepers. Anybody outside of the top 12 can be sleepers. Top 24 running backs and wide receivers, same thing. Top 24 can be busts. Anybody outside of the top 24 can be sleepers, which means these guys could have named Rashee Rice as a sleeper again, but they didn't. So, Mace, we always start with our pro. Who you got, buddy?
Yeah, I wish I would have dove a little bit deeper to figure that out because I probably could have got the Joes a win, man. Sheesh. This week, though, I'm rolling with Xavier.
No. You would have got the pros a win.
Yeah, the pros. I'm going to roll with Xavier Leggett. He's coming back into it. 92% route participation. The team actually fed him last week. I don't know if that's because the QB1 went down. Now they're going to have to roll to QB2 possibly. But if there is a connection there, I am with that. The former Gamecock is lining up both outside and in the slot. I don't think he's over 70% outside. So you're getting the best of both worlds. And it looks like they're kind of scheming with him. They have Tet over there as the wide receiver 1. So he's going to get a lot of the attention. And I feel like a lot of people are sleeping on Leggett. I don't know. He's had a lot of, I guess, targeted games. So PPR has been decent. But as far as like yards and touchdowns, a lot more left to be desired. But I see him as a wide receiver 3.
Okay. We go to our Joe next. Jack and Joe.
My sleeper this week is going to be Atlanta running back Tyler Algier. One of the easiest ways you can win fantasy leagues is playing running backs who play against the Miami Dolphins, which the Falcons do this week. Obviously, Bijan's going to be the main factor against the Dolphins this week. However, if you're thinking the Falcons will blow out Miami like Vegas does, 7.5-point spread, Algier hopefully can get in some of that garbage time work. And he also does mix in to keep Bijan fresh throughout most of the games. If you're looking on DraftKings to bet Algier to score a touchdown, he's only like 130 to 150, which is very likely for him to score. If he can score, get 40, 50 yards, he could be in that RB2 flex position role for this week. And what I like about Algier is that we've seen him hit big runs that can score touchdowns like we saw against the Bills a couple weeks ago, took that 20-yard run in for the first touchdown of the game. But he can also be a back that does the grind and go kind of stuff in the fourth quarter and just take 4-yard chunks at a time. Definitely a good flex play in those deeper leagues.
Do you see the Falcons sitting Bijan for the entire fourth quarter?
I could see that happening because if he's already gotten maybe 15 carries, he's got a TD and 100 yards, you don't need to put up more Bijan stats during that time. And why not get Algier some looks? They clearly like him for his value that he provides to bringing both rest and also just making sure Bijan can stay fresh. I could see Algier getting the whole fourth quarter. And he doesn't even need to. He can do damage in the first 3. He's going to play.
Yeah, he is going to play. Rick, you get to go next.
Well, I'm going to go for a wide receiver too. I've just been struggling every time I choose a running back for my sleeper. So going with Alec Pierce, Indianapolis Colts wide receiver. He's going up against the Tennessee Titans, and I know, you usually try to find whatever defense is playing against the Titans, but I'm going to be looking for wide receivers going against them. They're not so bad. They're about mid-pack when it comes to just wide receivers in general. But where they really suffer is on wide receivers that are actually the deeper wide receivers, the ones with the 20-plus yards downfield. And in fact, only the Dallas Cowboys have been worse than the Titans on that type of wide receiver. Alec Pierce had 16 catches for 317 yards. That measures out to 19.8 yards per reception. And if you go by what Player Profiler says, Pierce is number 12 in the NFL in what they call explosive play rating. And that's when a pass play that goes over 20 yards or more is considered an explosive play. So, Alec Pierce, you're coming onto my team.
Are you concerned at all that potentially Josh Browns will be back this week?
No.
Okay, fair enough. Because that's the only thing I can see limiting Pierce. I think you made a great call with him. With me, I'm going wide receiver too. I'm going also. It's not the wide receiver too. He wouldn't be a sleeper. But I am going with a wide receiver that plays against the new home team for Jack. He's playing against the Bears this week. I know it's not your favorite team, but it is your home team. You live there. So I'm going with Flowers. I think that I just think that he is a solid start this week. Other than the Lions game, where he had a season low 3 targets, Flowers has averaged 8.6 targets per game with 2 in double digits. Now that's against Cleveland's single high defense, which it favors deep threats. It just does. So I think we're going to see Flowers improve on his 24% target share. And, the Browns do offer one of the top run defenses in the league. So it may not be, it may be a more pass friendly game script, is what I'm saying. They're not going against the Bears. I'm wrong. They're going against the Browns. Cleveland, all these Illinois teams. I'm a Michigan guy. All the cities in Illinois, all Illinois and Ohio cities just. I'm sorry. Anyway, the next segment is the bus, and again, they had to be in our top 12, top 24 list, and we're saying they're not going to finish there in this week. And we start with our pro. Mace, who you got?
Yeah, so for my potential bust this week, I'm going to go with Quinson Judkins. Love the kid as a player. Old Miss, Ohio State. The matchup efficiency trends are working against him this week. Over the last 2 games, he's just sitting at 3 yards per carry and 2.17 yards after contact in one of them, showing he's not creating much beyond his blocking. And while that 3-touchdown game against Miami looked really good on paper, it was short yardage scores and a lot of bad weather, not really chunk plays. His breakaway rate is under 6%, and he's forcing fewer than 3 missed tackles per game lately. For context, the league average breakaway rate for a top 15 hovers around 25 to 30%. Anything under 10% signals a lot of volume. So he's not really at the explosive rate. I'm saying that he can't do that. I just don't think that offense is there right now, and that's probably because they don't have a passing attack. So also they're playing New England, and their defense ranks 3rd in the NFL in opponent rushing yards per game. 77.1 on the season and 76.7 over the past 3 games. I don't think last week they allowed over 50. So if he doesn't find the end zone, he's not going to be an RB2 or maybe even RB3 this week.
Well, I think my prep work was sucked this week. I had my schedule all screwed up. All right, Jack, your turn.
I'm going to follow you up, Mace, with another running back who wears orange, but I'm going to the Denver Broncos with J.K. Dobbins. My main reason for not wanting to play Dobbins is that he just doesn't catch the ball, and I want to play running backs who catch the ball. Dobbins doesn't have any catches the last 2 games, and if you go back the 4 games before that, he only has 1 catch in those games. Every single one was less than 10 yards. That's not even going to get you 2 fantasy points if you're playing PPR scoring. I want my running backs to get a lot of touches, and Dobbins really only gets his through handoffs. Another reason I'm not really liking him this week is that they play a decent Dallas run D with Kenny Clark. We all know they wanted to get beefier up front with trading away Micah Parsons and somehow getting Kenny Clark to help that out. Decent run defense in Dallas. Plus, in my opinion, I think Dallas could score on Denver, and if Denver is going to be chasing points, they're not going to be running the ball if you think that they're going to be trailing. They're going to want to be in pass sets, and that's going to factor in R.J. Harvey a lot more than J.K. Dobbins. So I'm just trying to stay away from the entire Broncos backfield this week, specifically from Dobbins.
I keep waiting for R.J. Harvey to break out. I drafted him in a couple of my fantasy drafts. Rick, who you got, buddy?
I'm going to keep this running back train going by choosing Tony Pollard, Tennessee Titan running back, as my bust of the week. He goes up against a tough defense, 6th-ranked defense against the run in the Indianapolis Colts. They haven't allowed a 100-yard game so far this season. They're also a 14.5-point favorite against Tennessee. So I don't think that the Titans are going to get much chance to run. Meanwhile, Pollard has had over 3 games, he's had 22.6 points. So that's only 7.5 points per game. He's rushed the ball 30 times for 119 yards, did have 1 score. In the receiving game, he's only tacked on another 67 yards on 11 receptions. So that's really what's been saving whatever fantasy production he's had. His worst performance was last week against the Raiders when he had only 4.7 fantasy points on 10 carries for 34 yards. He did have 11.9 fantasy points against this very same Indianapolis Colts, but that was before Tyjae Spears was back. And so now Tyjae Spears is back. I'm expecting to see more of the use of him because he's just more of an electrifying back than Tony Pollard. So Tony Pollard's my bust.
Okay, well, it's hard for me to sit any player that is the top of their position, but I'm doing it this week. Now, the guy I'm sitting has been targeted heavily. It's Jake Ferguson, the number 1 tight end in the NFL right now, and his 58 targets, it ranks second only to Trey McBride. So they're both heavily targeted. It's hard to sit either of them. But the return of CeeDee Lamb did impact the usage that the Cowboys have. Now, also, I take into account prior games by the teams. For example, I love Jackson Dart and the Giants. I think they're going to get slammed by the Eagles this week because of the game 2 weeks ago. I think the Eagles are going to be breathing fire. Same thing. I think the Broncos got embarrassed by the Giants. Now, they did come back and win the game, but I think their defense was embarrassed that they gave up that much to Jackson Dart and Cam Scatterboo. I think they're going to do their best to shut down as much as they can the Dallas Cowboys. Pat Surtain, I'm not sure if he's going to cover CeeDee Lamb all night or if they put him on Pickens. But regardless, I don't think they're going to give a whole lot up to Jake Ferguson. So I think you're going to see Ferguson struggle this week. Tight ends are traditionally up and down anyway. So I just think the thin air and the Red Rocks are going to do it against the Cowboys this week. So that's what we've got. We need to thank our guests for coming on. Mace, Jack, please feel free to come in back on the off season. Mace will be in touch all the time. Folks, check these guys out. Follow them on Twitter. X, sorry. And thanks again, buddy.
Thank you all.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Okay, I think it's time to go to the news. What's in the headlines, buddy?
Well, first of all, I think we want to make sure folks, we've mentioned by Mageddon, we want to make sure folks are aware that the Lions, Raiders, Rams, Cardinals, Seahawks, and Jaguars are all off on bye. I won't list off all the players since by tonight you should know which players you are no longer able to start this week. And I'll jump right into the injuries. And the first one is Jaden Daniels, Washington Commanders quarterback. He had a hamstring injury. He's definitely out this week. And so Martin Mariota is going to be replacing him. When he came into the game last week, he had a brutal pick six almost right out of the bat, right out of the gates. But I'm actually starting only because I have to start Marcus Mariota in one of my games. But I'm hopeful that his running abilities and the fact he's going against the Dallas Cowboys is going to help. Also, good news that we understand that both Terry McLaurin and Deebo Samuel both were full participants in practice today. And so that's hopefully going to help out Marcus Mariota as well. Other injuries from the quarterback side, we've got Bryce Young for the Carolina Panthers, high ankle sprain. He's definitely out this week. Andy Dalton takes over this week for him.
The Red Rifle.
And he is maybe an improvement over Bryce Young.
He'll get less passes blocked at the line of scrimmage. That's for
sure. Much bigger quarterback. They also added Mike White, which was kind of an indicator that despite the fact Bryce Young hopes he's able to come back the following week, usually high ankle sprains take 2 to 4 weeks out. So I think Mike White's signing is kind of an indication that the team also thinks that he's going to be out for a few weeks. Michael Penix suffered a bone bruise in his foot. It's considered day to day. He did practice today, so it's still questionable whether he starts this weekend. The backup in Atlanta is Kirk Cousins,
which would be an improvement.
Also knowing that Kirk Cousins was originally brought into Atlanta to be QB1, and then they drafted Michael Penix. So it's always an interesting story. And again, I agree with you. I think Kirk Cousins is a better passer, and we'll just see. Kendry Miller, the New Orleans Saints running back, had a torn ACL. He's out for the season. Devin Neal will be his backup and someone to look to see if he's still on your waivers.
Just means that Alvin Kamara is going to get a lot more work.
Yeah, although Kamara, I think I may be wrong, but I thought he might have popped up on an injury report too. So, and there's a lot of rumors about whether or not Kamara, even though he says that if he were to be traded, he would go off
he'd retire
and drink.
He'd retire, he said. Yeah.
But there's always still that chance that some team that is in need of a running back might attract him to change his mind. And
if he went to KC, there's no way he's going to an island because he's got a chance of the Super Bowl with KC.
And then that Devin Neal looks like a really good replacement running back. Yeah. So Nico Collins, he had a concussion, still has not practiced, so it's not looking good for the Texans to have him this week. Christian Kirk's already out with a hamstring injury. So the Texan wide receivers, rookie Jalen Noel, who was 4 for 77, had a good day last week. Jaden Higgins, who didn't have a good game, he was zeros across the board, and Xavier Hutchinson was 1 for 13. Also, a question came in the chat where are people looking to go with Fant or Schultz? Schultz would be somebody who would get usage, although I think he's also kind of nicked up this week as well. Then we had a couple
injury reports. Yeah.
Yeah, so keep an eye on the injury reports. On the IDP side, Sauce Gardner is in the concussion protocol. I think one of the sleepers was Xavier Leggett, and he had a really big game last week, but partly because Sauce Gardner was shadowing Tipp McMillan. So, but if Gardner's out, then of course that's going to put an even bigger challenge in front of the New York Jets. Max Crosby, he's got a knee injury, but he should play this week. He should play after this week's bye. And then just popping up on the injury report, L'Jarius Sneed, the Tennessee Titan cornerback, he was placed on IR. So yet another reason that the Titans are going to struggle. Returning players, tonight's game, Minnesota Viking running back Aaron Jones. Probably not going to get the full load, so Jordan Mason's still going to get plenty of use, but at least that's good news for the Minnesota Vikings. Brock Purdy has practiced, but he's still limited and thus still questionable. New York Jets are hopeful that they get Garrett Wilson back for this week, but I still believe he's on the injury report. Roquan Smith also hoping to come back as a linebacker for the Ravens. That should help the Ravens defense.
Garrett Wilson hasn't practiced yet this week, so I don't expect him back.
and that Brock Bowers and Jacoby Myers were expected to come back next week after this week's bye.
Hey, I
And
did want to ask you about Hassan Haskins because I don't think he's playing, and
I
I
think
don't.
he's already designated out. So
Yeah,
We're down in
and
everything.
so Marion
shit.
Hampton's there. So is Vidal the guy, or do they have somebody else?
I actually don't even know who is the running back for there, but Kamani Vidal, even if Haskins wasn't hurt, I think has taken over the lead running back role. And, I think they're really going to focus more on passing anyway. As much as people thought that a Greg Roman offense was going to focus on running, I think
You got to have the backs. You can't run if you don't have the backs.
Yeah, and they also have 3 really good wide receivers. So, and a young,
Yeah, really good young tight end. Yeah.
yeah. So we're going to look to see a lot of passing out of San Diego. There I go again. Los Angeles Chargers, and that's it from the news. So,
Well, no, I did want to ask you about the running back situation in Arizona. Is it Bam Knight? Is it Michael Carter? What's going on?
well, it's Bam Knight. They're on bye, so you're not going to see either of them. But I think that Bam Knight has the lead role on. He also had, surprisingly, I think he had more passing use in the last game. So Benson, he can't come back soon enough. One, as a Benson person with Benson on a couple of teams, but 2. I think their running game has really been impacted by first losing Connor, now losing Benson.
Well, Connor's gone for the year, correct?
Mm-hmm. Correct. He's gone for the year.
So when is Benson supposed to be back? Do you know?
He was out 2 weeks ago, and it was
So 2 more weeks at least.
Yeah, and that's just the minimum time that someone on IR can.
Well, but we got a couple extra minutes, so let's go ahead and talk about tonight's game a little bit. What are you expecting? Wentz is starting. JJ isn't even the backup. He is the third emergency
quarterback,
which means he could play if both quarterbacks got hurt.
Yeah, I just think that Kevin O'Connell is really being protective of his investment in JJ, and I would be shocked to see JJ McCarthy. Well, I guess the idea originally was for next week anyway, wasn't it?
I think so, yeah.
But going to be a fun game. I mean, again, I saw someone mention it perhaps in the chat that, this the boring Vikings. No, I think that they have a really good game, and I think this is going to be a really good game to watch. So I'm excited.
What do you expect passing, though? I mean, last time I looked, I believe KC was throwing the ball, and I know this is not about this game, but KC was throwing the ball about 37 times a game and only running it about 22 to 25. That's not normal in the NFL. It's usually 60-40, 55-45 split. I think both these teams are going to throw the ball a lot more than they're going to run it because of their running back situations. Do you agree?
Yeah, I think that Minnesota's running attack, I think, is a lot better than the Chargers, just from sheer injury points. Aaron Jones is coming back. I think the last thing I saw was that they were expecting him to get eased into it. So I'm guessing certainly less than 40% and have Jordan Mason handle 60%. I would guess, just based on their skill sets, you're probably going to see Aaron Jones on third down and Jordan Mason handle the bulk of the first and second down work.
And I think you're going to see Mason on the 2 and 4 minute drills, though.
Yeah,
I mean, Jones, not Mason, Jones, on the 2 minute, 4 minute drills, because those are usually heavy pass downs too.
But again, I'm looking forward to seeing, and the Vikings have a pretty good defense, so I think this is going to be a good challenge for the Chargers. I think that people are really excited about Lad McConkey the last week or two. He's seems to have turned it back up again. But you got Quentin Johnson, who's going to be healthy now.
And you got Keenan.
And then you got Keenan Allen.
But I think it's time.
You mentioned that tight end, so why don't you name them, since a lot of people should be
Josh Oliver?
Tight end for the
TJ. You're talking about TJ Hawkinson.
No, for the Chargers.
Oh, Rondé Gadsden.
That's right.
Junior.
Yeah, Junior, because his dad did play. And
his dad won me my first FanX championship, but his dad was a wide receiver, not a tight end.
But tell the story about his dad in fantasy football.
Yeah, I used to. Joe Bryan of Football Guys and I created the FanX Fantasy Experts League way back when, and it's a tough league. It was really a tough league to win. It was a lot of big names in that league. Jim Lenz, John Hansen, Steve Cohen, Mike Nazarick. There's just a ton of big names in that league. Joe was in it, obviously. I believe Bob Harris was in it. So we had a lot of people. It was a tough league to win. Well, one year, there was this tall guy in Miami that had a good game. So I went out and picked him up. Nobody knew him and they couldn't pronounce his name. But he had such a good year that year that it basically vaulted me to the top of the FanX. And during the playoffs, he was great. So Rondé Gadsden, always in my heart.
I did well also, and I skipped over, and I should mention it, a little bit of the controversy going on in New York with the Jets and their quarterback situation. Justin Fields was replaced by Tyrod Taylor, who really just looked as bad as Justin Fields did. But the owner of the team came out a day or two ago and just ripped into Justin Fields, and it looked like it was going to be Taylor replacing him for this week. Then Tyrod Taylor shows up with a knee injury. So now it'll be interesting to watch whether or not they go with Justin Fields or maybe rookie Brady Cook, or whether Taylor's able to play. That organization is just.
There's a reason they're winless. There's a reason they're winless. Hey, but now I think it's time for intelligent discussion. Hey, normally we have a special guest, Tipp Major, who comes in and breaks down what two different AIs say about three players that we choose, a running back, a wide receiver, and a tight end. Now, this week, our running back is Chuba Hubbard. Our wide receiver is Kendrick Bourne. And our tight end is the one we had last week, Kyle Pitts. Now, I know that you might think this is easy. I think that we got a lot. These guys are in year-to-date points, they're less than
a point.
Yeah, the low one is 63.5, and the high one is 64.5 points for the year. So it's tight. All right. Now, Pitts had a great game last week, but we'll see what happens here. Anyway, Tipp can't be with us tonight because his stepdaughter, who is a senior in high school, asked him to escort her during the senior walk at the football game. And I just think that's so wonderful that his stepdaughter asked that. We always say what? Family first. So I will be filling in for Tipp. And on this, I've got to go over to my notes because it's too much for me to memorize. Sir Whittington, and I keep saying we're going to call him Sir Whittington soon enough. He ranks them Kyle Pitts, Chuba Hubbard, and then Kendrick Bourne, okay? Based on fantasy football analysis for week 8, that's what Sir Whittington said. Here's a ranking of the three players. I just gave it to you. Pitts should lead the way because he has a favorable matchup and consistent value. So Sir Whittington, which is the Google AI, by the way, likes Kyle Pitts. Hubbard places second because the Bills have struggled against the run, allowing the 5th most fantasy points per game to running backs. I didn't know that. He's also in a 50-50 share with Rico Dowdle, and I'm not even sure it's 50-50 because Rico has been way more effective than Chuba has been. Chuba? I'm not sure. And Bourne places last because he's had reduced usage in 1 week, okay, and is facing a defense that's the 5th toughest pass defense. So that was Sir Whittington. Now, Krog, which is Grok, changes the order a bit. They got Pitts last. They went with Chuba, Kendrick, and then Pitts. All right. Now, I know you don't agree with that, but we'll get to that in a minute. Hubbard's snap share edge in the backfield committee, Bourne's elevated role amid injuries, and Pitt's consistent targets but inefficient quarterback play and defensive tendencies, e.g., Buffalo's run vulnerability, and Houston's stout secondary, Miami's bottom-tier run defense. All three are viable flex options in a buy-heavy week by Mageddon, okay? But volume and opportunity tip the scales. Hubbard has shown solid efficiency, 4.8 yards per carry in recent games, and goal line work. Buffalo ranks last in run success rate. 19.1% of opponent rushes gain 10-plus yards. I did not know that either. That's pretty bad. It's amazing that Miami's worse than them, to be honest. It sets up chunk plays, so that's why he likes Hubbard. He thinks he'll get a couple chunk plays. Bourne showed explosive usage and production in weeks 5 and 6. True enough, 142 yards in each one before having a down game last week. But that could be, he could exploit the Texans' 5th-ranked run defense if the secondary rotates. So that's what they're looking for, is a rotational zone scheme that the Texans run could play to Bourne's advantage. And Pitts, low targets, route run, he only gets 0.155 targets per route run. That's very low. It's 4th worst among tight ends. Signals underutilization, and at this time, we're not sure how much, if any, the bone bruise of his knee will affect Penix's performance. So now, this is Tipp's numbers, and then we get to you. Tipp likes Pitts best. Then he likes Chuba, and then Bourne. Going against Miami, who's middle of the pack with giving up fantasy points to tight ends, but they are certifiably the most dysfunctional team in the NFL. The Falcons' offense will feast, including Kyle Pitts. Hubbard, in his return this week, had 16 touches. His return last week, pardon me. He is part of the offense, and so is Rico Dowdle. Plus, Buffalo is giving up 20 fantasy points to running backs on the season and 8 touchdowns in 6 games. I didn't realize that. That's pretty bad. So that's why he's got Chuba up there. Bourne played a tough defense last week and got forgotten about. He only had 14 yards. Christian McCaffrey turned back into the Christian McCaffrey of earlier years. So the Texans give up the 6th fewest points to wide receivers, and they are the only allowing opponents 14.5 points per game. I didn't know that either. Their defense is very, very strong. So that's it for them. Your turn, Rick. What do you got?
Okay, and you said, gee, this sounds like it would be easy. Actually, no, I thought this was a really tough one this week. I'll start from the bottom. I had Kendrick Bourne as 3rd in the group, and it's really more the tough defense they're going against, especially the pass defense. The Texans are just tough, both from a pass rush and their defensive backfield is amongst the top in the NFL. So also, even though I was thinking at the time when I started to give this some thought that there was a chance that Ricky Pearsall was going to be back, doesn't look so. He hasn't practiced at all this week. But I still think that you're going to see more from Kittle. And I think that, again, I think
Jennings will overcome his injuries. Yeah.
yeah, and he's already healthy, I think, and so he would be a good shot against the Texans. I just don't think Bourne's got much chance. I like Kyle Pitts. I think that he's going against Miami, and even though I think there's a chance that Mooney still might be back this week, but I think that Pitts has been really consistent. He's had 5+ receptions in 3 of the games so far this season. He's tight end 2 in route participation, tight end 6 in target share, and tight end 7 in broken tackles. So he would be, the top one on my list. I also think that Chuba didn't look so great last week, but hey, he was coming back from an injury, and while the Bills can be run on, they're 6th worst in the NFL, giving up 20 fantasy points to running backs. But I think that Rico Dowdle will continue to get more work than Chuba. Dowdle had 51% of his runs gaining over expectation, while Chuba only had 36%. And I think looking at it, and I'm a big Chuba Hubbard fan, Chuba just hasn't looked as explosive this year. So I would go Pitts, Chuba, and then Bourne.
Okay, well, before I get into mine, I forgot to mention how we're doing against the AI. All right. Now, we do track what Tipp's doing. Okay. Tipp has got a score of 20. Remember, low score wins here because you get a point for every place you're off in the projections. The scores range from 20, Tipp, to 24. Rick has 22. Tipp and Sir Whittington have 20. Myself and Krog have 24. It's tight. It's tight. The AIs are beating us, Rick, thanks to me, 44-46. But it's really tight. It really is. So with me, I'm a little bit different than you. I went with Chuba at number 1. All right. I just think he splits carries with Dowdle, but it's clear that he remains the feature role. He's got the lead role in that offense, and he's going to get the goal line work. He's just a bigger back than Rico Dowdle. I think Dowdle will get more of the passing things. It's just that the Bills are so easy to run on. Now, the problem is if they get a big lead, neither one of these guys are going to be able to run much. But I think the early game script is going to be to try to slow the game down and run a lot to keep them from getting a big lead by throwing the ball. Josh Allen's the joker in this one for me. Okay. Pitts surprised me last week. He won't do it this week, but he is my number 2. He's got consistent value, usage, and he should put up moderate points. My one concern is Miami's run defense is just so poor that if Bijan goes off in the first quarter and they get a 3-score lead, then there's not going to be a whole lot of passing later in the game. Now, if the passing they do, I said do, the passing that Atlanta does might feature Pitts a little bit more than it normally would because they'll want to keep them safe passes, the short, intermediate passes, not going to Mooney down the field if they've already got a 3-score lead. So I got Pitts at number 2, but I do think Bijan's going to steal the show this week. I really do. I would like to see him steal the show so much that we see our Joe's sleeper, Tyler Algier, have a good game. Bourne, he showed me that when Jennings is healthy, he's just not getting the looks. And he's at the bottom of my list this week because of the matchup and because I think Jennings is healthy. So I do think, like you said, you're going to see more Pitts, not Pitts. You're going to see more Kittle this week. So that's pretty much it for our AI. What do we do next? I think it's got to ask you first, is there anything in the chat?
Yeah, there was kind of a question about tight ends, Noah Fant or Dalton Schultz. I kind of think you kind of gave James your answer in the chat. Um, I think that both actually would be good choices, but I think I would go a little bit more on Fant than Schultz this week.
Yeah, and if you can get Kate Otten, I'd go with him this week. I knew Detroit was going to kind of limit him, but I'm not sure Igbuka is going to play this week. Mike Evans is definitely out, and Baker is steaming about what happened in Detroit. So you're going to see a fired up Baker. I think you're going to see a Tampa Bay return to the win column this week. So if Kate Otten's available, I'd throw him out there because he's not on a lot of rosters.
Yeah.
But I had Schultz last week, so I do like Schultz, but I do think I'd go with Fant over Schultz this week.
Yeah. I like the way someone described him on Twitter. They described him as Zach Ertz, kind of like a Zach Ertz type tight end. Solid, gets out there into space. Extends well, catches the ball well. I think I've always been impressed. Of course, I'm a Texan fan, so I'm going to be a little bit more impressed with all the Texan players, but I do like him a lot. I also, there's another question that just popped up, and it looks like two of them. It looks like Henry or pickup Fannin, so I'm guessing that's Hunter Henry, or pickup Fannin, which is, if that's an option, that would be my first choice. And definitely not Juwan Johnson.
Yeah, the fact is, Juwan Johnson was getting a lot of looks early in the year, and he was lighting it up. He's a good tight end, but that New Orleans offense and defense are dysfunctional. I would stay away from Johnson. Fannin, they play New England this week. Who do they play? Cleveland. Browns play who? Yeah, Patriots. In New England. New England's pretty tough against tight ends. I think I'd go with the guy you got and not pick up Fannin this week. I'm just not sure against New England. They got pretty solid linebackers in New England. That's usually the key to tight end success is how good are the linebackers and the safeties, because that's who covers them. What do you think?
Yeah, I said I already suggested Fannin because
Okay.
he's on the upswing, and Hunter Henry, who's been a solid tight end for the last couple of years. I think that New England spreads the ball around a lot. So I think, and of course, Derek May has been an extraordinary quarterback so far this season. But I really just think
I said, I've told you how much I like JJ, but I did look at an old thing that I did, and I said that I thought before the draft we reviewed Brad Holmes on one of our old shows, and I made a statement on that show that I forgot I made. I said that Drake May should have been the number one quarterback taken. He was the most prepared for the NFL, and that included JJ, it included Caleb, and it included Jaden. Drake May he's a good, solid quarterback.
is just getting better, and again, they're starting to give him tools now that he can go alongside. The one thing I like about Fannin in this particular choice, though, is that he's really their best target. He's really the whole offense. Him and Judkins are the basically the entirety of the Cleveland offense. So that's why.
Okay, well, this one is easy for me. Pick one PPR. Why has that got my name on it? I didn't do that. I would definitely pick Dubs here.
Yeah, me too.
He's just going to get more work unless, and this is a big unless, if you get return yards in your scoring system, then you got to look at Mims. You just have to look at him. But and most leagues don't give yards for return yards. So I would go Dubs.
Yeah. And definitely not Shepard or McCaffrey, I think.
McCaffrey burnt me last week. I'm not picking him again.
Yeah, I just think that the Green Bay offense is just, you want to get a good receiver on a good offense.
Yep.
Dubs is the guy.
So was there any more, or do we go to the mailbag?
We go to the mailbag.
All right. I'm going to put it up where I can read it without looking down. All right. From Andrew Vega, Rodgers, Dart, or Flacco? You're first.
Well, I tell you, those are all three good options. And, someone who's not really a big Rodgers fan, but he has looked pretty strong. I thought I saw even him throwing a 75-yard pass in the air. And so his arm is looking good. Plus, I like the idea of a revenge game as well, although he kind of downplayed it. But I think that should also add to the attraction to Rodgers. But
tough
I
defense.
think it's hard to go away from Jackson Dart. He's been so exciting this year. Oh, and Flacco's been, I think Flacco's been great too. If you look at what do you have? He had 342 yards against the Jets. Well, they are the Jets, but 3 touchdowns. I think that the Bengals are going against the Steelers, and I think they're actually favored this week. So I just think that the one thing I would look for is the guy that's really been tearing it up, and that's been Jackson Dart. I know they're going against Philadelphia, but Philadelphia's passing defense isn't as strong as their run defense, and so I would go with Jackson Dart.
Jackson Dart's the logical choice. I wrote that down before I heard your response. He's somewhat matchup proof because of his rushing ability, which is greater than that of both Rodgers and Flacco by far. Okay. My problem with Rodgers is he's facing the Green Bay defense. It's pretty good. Okay. Now, that said, he may fall behind and have to throw, but who's he going to throw to? DK Metcalf is okay, but who's their other receivers? Freiermuth, Jonnu Smith. I mean, do they have another wide receiver? I like Roman Wilson, but he's not getting the playing time. So, and I, with all that said, the toughest on paper matchup is Flacco. Okay, but I got a feeling he's the guy this week. He's got the best receivers of the trio, and I just have a feeling that Philadelphia is going to be up for Dart this time around. So I'm going with Flacco here. I just really think that he has resurrected his career and the Bengals.
And I agree with you on the wide receivers. I mean, he's revived T. Higgins. Of course, he's got Jamar Chase there. And I even think the tight end is going to come into play this week. But I'm going with the hot hand right now with Jackson Dart.
For Mark Walters, would you start Quentin Johnston or Wan'Dale Robinson this week? I'll go first. This may be, in my opinion, the best question we got all week. It's really close. Matchup-wise, Robinson has the easier defense. But as with our last question, I got a feeling that Philadelphia is still upset from the way they played the Giants 2 weeks ago. All right? So I think they're going to be up for this game. Johnston is losing some targets to Ladd McConkey right now. Okay, just the way it is. But Justin Herbert spreads the ball around very well. And even though Minnesota has a very tough pass defense, especially against wide receivers, I think Johnson has the higher ceiling because I think he could get into the end zone and score a TD. So I'm going with Johnson. How about you?
And I agree that this was a great question and a tough choice because I like both wide receivers. I went with Wan'Dale Robinson. I think,
you like Dart this week.
I like Dart, so I think that's going to help. But I also think that, he's got less target competition. So I just would lean, especially in a PPR league, I think that you have to go with Wan'Dale Robinson.
I can't argue that. It's a gut feeling because the Giants handled Philadelphia, and I just think they're too prideful to let that stand. From Jeff Porini, Would you roll with Bo Nix this week or pick up from the free agents available Aaron Rodgers, Joe Flacco, or Jackson Dart? Now, first of all, I want to ask a question, then I'll turn it over to you, Rick. How in the hell are you in the league that have got those three quarterbacks on the free agent wire? Is it a
Yeah.
four-team league? I mean, seriously.
I
That's
mean, I admitted that I had
I
to
don't
pick
know.
up
I don't
Marcus
know.
Mariota this week. So the
Yeah.
fact that you've got great quarterback choices, it must be an 8-team league or a one quarterback league, is possible too. But yeah, and it's kind of funny because we had a similar question of it like this last week, and I think I was suggesting Bo Nix that week.
which was a good suggestion.
Yeah. And
Right.
he had a great game last week. He's going against Dallas this week. They're the worst team against quarterbacks. They give up almost 30 points per game. And yeah, Nick's had just a monster game. He had 2 touchdowns off 279 yards. He had another 48 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground. How could you not start Bo Nix this week?
Yeah. Now, look, I like Jackson Dart. I think Flacco was playing lights out. And Aaron Rodgers is a future Hall of Famer. All right. But Bo Nix is the 6th ranked quarterback in fantasy. He's just outside the top 5, and he scored 40 last week. Well, 39 and 8/10 or something like that. He's playing the Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys make bad quarterbacks look good. Hell, they make them look great. Bo Nix is not a bad quarterback. You got to go Bo Nix here. From Adam Grant, Quentin Johnson versus the Vikings, DJ Moore versus the Ravens. I want this one first because I hate DJ Moore, okay? DJ Moore clearly has the better matchup. Clearly. Quentin Johnson clearly has the better quarterback, okay? Most analysts would say go with DJ based on the matchup. I don't trust Moore, or the Chicago offense, okay? Now, the Ravens defense is nothing to write home about. And Chicago is on the hot streak, as Andy Barron says, the hottest team in football. Okay. And so, I think they're favored to beat the Ravens. For Los Angeles to win, Herbert is going to have to throw the ball. All right. And as I said earlier, I think Quentin Johnson gets into the end zone. So I'd go with Johnson. How about you?
Agree with you 100% on Quentin Johnson. I also think that, DJ Moore has got, they both have lots of competition, but maybe DJ Moore has more competition for catches. I mean, I think that's a great spot to start the Chicago Bears against the Ravens. And I think that, I could see arguments for Caleb, but you got Swift.
I'd start Colston Loveland. I would.
The next name on the list.
Colston Loveland. Sorry.
Roma Dunze.
I'm starting Roma Dunze, yeah.
Heck, you might even get Burden in there. So this is going to be just too many different options for
fun
Caleb.
Game to watch.
Yeah, and it'll be fun to watch this game, but I'd still go with Quentin Johnson this week.
All right, our last mailbag is from Rolando RG. Okay, I don't know what RG stands for. Mason Taylor at the Bengals or Mark Andrews versus the Bears? Let's go with you first.
This was an easy one for me. Mason Taylor. The Bengals are the worst defense against tight ends. They give up 15 fantasy points per game. And Mason Taylor may be the best receiver that the Jets have now that Garrett Wilson is out. So, and we still don't know who the quarterback's going to be in Baltimore. Andrews has been inconsistent even without Isaiah Likely. I would go Mason Taylor.
Yeah. Now, getting Jackson back, we're not positive, but we're pretty sure Lamar Jackson's going to be back. That does help Mark Andrews. They do have good chemistry together. I still think that you're going to see a huge game from Derrick Henry and not a huge passing game there. So I'm going Mason Taylor too, because like you said, Bengals are giving up almost a TD per game. They've given up 5 TDs to tight ends in 7 games. All right, that's 0.71 TDs per game. That's pretty friendly. And Andrew does share with Likely, who is a very talented kid. I just think what convinced me to go with Taylor was the naming of Tyrod Taylor. Now, I know he may not start, but if he does, I'm pretty sure it's not going to be Justin Fields. And I think any quarterback that starts is a better thrower and a better reader of defenses than Justin Fields. Justin Fields is a great fantasy quarterback because of his legs, but this year he hasn't been running as much. So, and he's always had trouble reading defenses. So for me, I'm going Taylor, and I think it's not particularly close.
Yeah, I have a rookie only league where I've been doing without a quarterback all season. And so let's just will Brady Cook into existence. Did grab him off waivers. There is one question in the chat.
Well, let's do that. We'll extend the show a little bit to get that.
Sure. So Bob Hope, who
we had him last week.
Great comedian, great actor. Favorite movies.
This isn't Bob.
Oh, God. I'm sorry. Anyway, Garrett Wilson is available on waivers. Should he drop Fannin or
yes,
Dubs?
And not Dubs, Fannin.
Fannin, yeah, that's an easy
you don't
one.
need Fannin. Pitts and Fannin are interchangeable. You can stream your tight end. You can stream a tight end, but Garrett Wilson, when he plays, he's a target hog. He gets double-digit targets every week.
Yeah, he's a wide receiver 1. You got to take Garrett Wilson.
Yeah, and you shouldn't have even asked. You should have already done it.
Yeah. And that's it.
That's it. Take us home, Iggy. And people, like, subscribe, and give us a comment.
I'm the old school.